Welcome to the sixth Saddle Road Press First Sunday Reading Series. I'm Don Mitchell, SRP's design and production person. I'm going to be the host today because the publisher, Ruth, is going to be reading. Saddle Road Press is a literary press that Ruth started in 2011 in Colden, New York, then moved to Hilo, Hawaii, and is now located in Ithaca, New York. Saddle Road has published 65 books. It's a pity we're not at 66 because then we'd have a nice string of sixes for the day. Sixth reading, 6th of April, 66 books. There's one more book queued up for 2025, and then SRP will be on hiatus for the rest of the year as we catch our breaths. Between 2023 and early 2025, we published 19 books. Saddle Road Press books can be ordered through the usual online sources and, importantly, at local bookstores. Try to order locally rather than online if it's possible. Today's readers are poets Sandy Coomer and Ruth Thompson. Sandy Coomer is a poet, artist, Ironman triathlete. That's not your ordinary triathlete. And social entrepreneur from Nashville, Tennessee. Her poetry has been published in numerous journals, and she's the author of 3 poetry chapbooks and 2 full-length collections. She is a multiple Pushcart Prize and Best of the Net nominee, and her poem, Calligraphy, was a 2019 Best of the Net finalist. Sandy is a past poetry mentor in the AWP Writer-to-Writer Mentorship Program and the founding editor of the online poetry journal Rockvale Review. She's the founder and director of Rockvale Writers Colony in College Grove, Tennessee. Sandy's favorite word is believe. The Broken Places is Sandy Coomer's second full-length collection. It catalogs broken moments within relationships, identity, the body, and the world. Is it anyone's fault, she writes, this world has teeth? And her poems skip across the human condition like a stone across water, touching specific moments with vivid imagery. This is not rare, and I am not a spectacle carrying grief this way over my shoulder, though it spills, thick and red, down my back. From death and mourning to gardens and growth, Coomer gives us poems that reveal, make connections, and remind us we are human. When Sandy and I were making her book, a collaboration as always, our conversation sometimes veered from book design to tractors. Yes, big green agricultural grade John Deere machines, and I have to say that hers is much bigger than mine. Ruth Thompson is a poet and conscious channel. She's the author of 6 books, including Journey Bread and Quickwater Oracles. Here. Ruth began writing poetry in her 50s after freeing herself from an abusive marriage, about which she wrote in Women with Crows. Her poems have won many national awards and Pushcart nominations. A native Californian, Ruth has a BA from Stanford University and a doctorate in English from Indiana University. She now lives in Ithaca, New York with me, teaches poetry and meditation, looks after a large dog, 2 cats, and does not drive the tractor. Journey Bread has been called a wide-ranging retrospective by a master of voice and craft. Like the journey carried through the mountains by the author's forebears, it is also way bread, lembas, giving heart in dark times. And it is the viaticum, the bread on the tongue of the dying, as the poet begins the last stage of her journal with a final letting go of what has been to make space for whatever is to come. Quickwater Oracles is Ruth's channeled conversations with trees, bees, fairies, dragons, and a host of other beings. Refreshingly unsentimental and lyrical, Quickwater Oracles is a different kind of daily meditation and journaling companion. It won Hoffer, Montaigne, and First Generation Book Awards and was first runner-up for the Hoffer Grand Prize in 2022. So, Ruth, over to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Don, and thanks to everyone for coming. And thank you, Sandy. I'm so glad to read with you. This is just really a thrill. So I'm going to read a couple of poems from Journey Bread, and then a couple of channels from Quickwater Oracles. Increasingly, I think my work is about aging, about writing the ending as honestly as I can. This poem is called Losing the Words. See how they slip in and out of one another's clothes? How, dressed in zinnia-colored feathers, giggling, they settle to the lip like birds, then flicker away. They hide behind the roof of my mouth with flashlights, cast firefly shadows on my flickering tongue, dash onto the stage and off, grinning madly. Above them, that terrible sign, Exeunt omnes. For one day, all of them, all the thousand names of God, will fall in love, conjoin, merge into the unkempt darkness behind the stars. They will be gone forever. Then silence will enter the echoing chambers of my mind. It will speak its name at last. I will say yes. The next poem, Don and I got married in 2022 after 18 years together and 60 years after we first knew one another in college. So everyone's happy we're getting married for Don. Reunion of college sweethearts, real life Hallmark schmaltz. Everyone's happy we're getting married. For here we are, after 60 years, saying yes to whatever it is that pours us all headlong into tomorrow. Could be this sweet marriage morning's mackerel sky, or thunderheads bad with rain. Everyone's heavy with their own rain. Yet here we are, after all. Kusharem is a real place in Utah, but this is kind of one of those fairy tales that you encounter and never unravel the mystery of. The road to Kusharem. As if by accident, the road to Kusharem. Sagebrush, sand, hills, pines. Then a road turning in between wheat and red clover. It will be afternoon, sprinklers stilled, bales quiet, fields. A small rain cloud will let down silks upon the road. Shafts of light will burn like beacons through the rain. Then, as if by accident, a paint horse standing in heady sunshine, exactly half black and half white, even his mane, even his long tail. And finally, sometimes in dreams, you see wings. Sometimes you wake to a wing of rain coming in slantwise under clouds, to muscled light and the sound of crows. Or sometimes late in life you turn and see the landscape you have become, spreading out behind you like a leaf unfolding or a wing. Sometimes in dreams, you see that the air is made of wings, that oceans are glittering scales, that shadows are wombs and graveyards honeycombs, that the earth is swaying and brushing up against you, that all of it is singing. Now I'd like to read a couple of channels from Quickwater Oracles, and I especially wanted to read this first one with Sandy because it was channeled at Rockvale. Pine trees at Rockvale. Slow down now. Slow down and sit and breathe. Open your eyes to what is around you. Be in love. Be here. Yes. We are a grove. This is a word we like. Grove, grove, grove. It's a slower word. And this slow respiration groves us and you with us. And in the background, the showing off happy song Mockingbird. Not showing off as the phrase means, but throwing the gold of song into the air for all to enjoy. This is what he does for no reason but to have fun. Here it is again, Ruth, what we are saying to you over and over. All is for no reason. It is for pleasure. It is for itself knowing itself. You have been purposed so much all your life. You have been so earnest. Now we say, just throw the gold. Just sing for pleasure, for pure joy. And lastly, this was the dolphins speaking to my ongoing grief about the loss of species to human destruction and climate change. The dolphins. All that is beloved to you, that you have been grieving, it is you who grieve, you who long to preserve those that are leaving. Those that are leaving do not feel sorrow to leave. We are the dolphins. Let us speak here to this, for we are fullness of joy in this life and this being here. We love it. We love it. We love ocean and light and dark. We love dancing with the world. We love eating, but we do not conceptualize in the way that you are conceptualizing this. We are in. And we do not look around and think how many are in and how many are gone. We do not think then there were and there will be and all this kind of thinking. We come to play and then we go out. And we come to play and then we go out. And we could be in any realm, any time, space we choose to come in. So there is no end for us. And so it is true for all. The singing that you are doing of our beauty and power and light, the feel of being dolphin, the joy of being dolphin. This is a beautiful thing to enter into and sing. And that knowing, that merging, it exists. It exists in the realm that you create in the moment of singing. Thank you.
That was lovely, Ruth. What a joy to share this time with you and with everybody. Thanks for coming. Pine trees at Rockvale. Oh my gosh, I love it.
You know exactly the place I was sitting.
Yeah, and yeah, I know those pine trees. So I'm going to share some poems from The Broken Places. The Broken Places, I tell everybody it's a dark book. It has a lot of heavy subject matter, heavy poems, but you know, the world is sometimes heavy. So I feel like there's a place for poems like that. The book is separated into 5 sections, and what I thought I would do is just read one poem from each section. With the little intro poem at the beginning. So this intro poem is called To the Seashell, and the title continues into the first line of the poem. And I will say that for me, it's been true that sometimes if you're having a particular hard time or a difficult situation, it can be a little tiny thing that brings you back to yourself, brings you back to the world, brings you back to purpose. And in this particular poem, the little tiny thing is a seashell. To the seashell that traveled ocean depths and landed on this narrow shore, this poem is yours. You've come unbidden, unmoored, a flip upon a wave of time. Who would have guessed today I'd walk barefoot in cold surf, jeans rolled up to my knees, looking for a miracle? Is it anyone's business I prefer to speak my tragedies to the water's roar? Is it anyone's fault this world has teeth? Even the surf with its foamy edge eats away at the beach. But you, tiny calcium mantle, the elemental flash of your white spiral redeems me. Your open ear welcomes the hushed tremors of my breath. Why does it matter so much you appeared? And why did I stop? Carry you home like you were everything I ever needed. And then a section, the first section in the book is called Broken World. And this poem that I would like to read, I wrote after the 2017 church shooting in Smyrna, Tennessee. One of my really close friends was at the service when that shooting happened, and I talked to her about that. This is called Begonia, after the 2017 church shooting in Smyrna, Tennessee. After the incident at church, you pay more attention to the garden, especially the plant growing wild in the dirt beside the manse. Wide, well-veined leaves of soft green disguise the blood-red reverse. Weeks ago, you thought begonia, but waited until the delicate pink blooms lifted out of the fold to name it. You drop to your knees to study the botany of begonia and wonder about the need to name everything, to label it, when so much is unknowable, ordinary, steady on one side, bloody on the other. You still have nightmares about the shooter, who everyone said was a swell guy until they saw the reverse of him. The dead woman in the parking lot, the pastor with bullets in his arms. How can you name the flight that took your legs, even as your heart pleaded, go back, find your friends? You confess courage is two-sided, fragmented, a label only found in the dirt. You kneel in the drifting shade and try to understand yourself, which means to understand humanity, which cannot be understood. no matter what name you give its wildest part, the hard, blunt face of its blooming. The second section in the book is Broken Relationship. And the poem I'm going to read is called Peacock Hill. What if we give up on forgiveness and instead walk through the brambles to the top of the rise and watch the wild peacocks roost in the trees? Turquoise and emerald, fringed and crested cobalt, let's soak our eyes in color and kneel in the dirt, tune ourselves with the infrasonic music of their wings. We've been too long splintered and bandaged. Who bought that axe we shoulder between us? Those scales that weigh our sins like the city measures garbage hauled from office parks. If you need to find my weakness, I'll lay it out before you and write its story in blood. I don't think you'll be surprised by the dozen eyes, the luster of plum and gold. What if we climb the trees and lie in the canopy of night and whisper our secrets to the peahens? They know enough of love to give us good advice. Look how patiently they sit on their nest of eggs while coyotes sneer beyond the field of feathers. Hold an egg in your hand and paint our resurrection. No matter what you think about our chances, let morning find us iridescent and shimmering. The next section is Broken Identity. And most of the poems in this section are about what does it mean to be a woman in today's society. So this poem that I'm going to read is from an experience that I had personally when I was 18 years old. And the poem is called Poem in Which My Body is a Ransom. The note says thighs and shoulders, mouth and eyes. I wait tables at an upscale restaurant in Belmead. I'm 18, with an invitation to spend a day with a 40-year-old man. Play tennis, dine at the country club. Here's his card. Anthony builds houses, drinks bourbon at the bar, drives a Porsche, smiles with dark eyes, trick eyes. He calls me beautiful. I bring his food on a round white plate. He tips well. I need money for college. I am a flamethrower. My heat strips the night. I am a cracked window, a broken latch, an empty cupboard, a lost key. I am a vision, Anthony says. He leaves me love notes, beautiful eyes. I am a dark cavern, a lonely owl in the night. I am a tattoo of birds that fly up and off my arms. I keep Anthony's card in a drawer by my bed. Anthony is waiting at the front door of the restaurant. Anthony is watching me count tip money. I am a tidal wave wrecking the shore. I am fish, flesh and scales. I am bait. I am a river cutting the canyon, train tracks running between coasts. I am learning how it feels to be a woman. And a man is a man is a man is a man is a man. The next section in the book is Broken Body. And this is about illness, disease. And this poem that I'm going to read is called Hunger. At midnight, I drag the trash can to the fridge and start hauling. Slimy field greens, mold-spotted cheddar, sour milk. I try to remember when we stopped eating, the day your diagnosis unraveled us, or before that, when your symptoms bulged out of the box we made for them. How long we listened to your body's complaint, its voice raw and tangled, like the sprouts I toss in the can. And now the shriveled strawberries, and now the thinly sliced honey ham, and now the trash can is full and the fridge empty, except for a few items with long shelf lives. Mustard, balsamic vinaigrette. Look at the woman I've become, scrawny with watching you suffer, starved for answers. Who has the energy to swallow? Your meager mouth chews a cud of words. How could this happen? How can this be? We've nearly disappeared. Our eyes too large for our sunken bodies, our cheeks hollow, our bellies stretched across the bones of a future we're afraid to speak. I tie up the trash, take it outside to the curb. A harvest moon rises like an open mouth, wide and hungry above the empty street. And then the last section is called Broken Heart. And to try to break up some of my darker poems, I'm going to read a positive poem. That's actually the last poem in the book. It's called To Make Sense of This World Again. And I wrote this, I'll just tell you briefly. I went out to my backyard. This is a couple of, maybe 5 years ago. And I noticed a little vine growing, and it ended up being a pumpkin vine. I did not have any pumpkins. I mean, it just appeared. I didn't have a pumpkin from last year. It just appeared. And it grew. I let it grow, and it grew a massive, humongous vine, and I harvested a whole bunch of pumpkins from it. So, to make sense of this world again. I want to see something small, a pumpkin seed in the beak of a crow, an accidental release and a turning of soil, a sprout, pale green, a leaf, an anchoring tendril, a floppy yellow flower, and bees. I'm willing to stand in pine straw and listen to bullfrogs groan as they crouch by a pond unencumbered with string algae. There's so little space allowed for the untamed. A rogue pumpkin vine stretches to the fence, curves under oak leaf hydrangea, reappears with an orb of green, swollen with carotenoids firing in the sun. The garden becomes an altar to orange. The tangled vine, a labyrinth of questions. How? When? Why? Sometimes I'm shadowed by the state of this world, its dark edges, its darker heart. What good I try to do is casually undone by jaded voices speaking careless words. Forgive me, but sometimes I tire of weeping. Oh, let me have my fleshy rind, my fearless, porous stalk. Let me follow the breath of dragonflies, the toe prints of salamanders, the box turtle's game board shell. There's little enough reward for wishes, and love's too often washed with spit. I struggle with the weight of the largest pumpkin, marvel at its beautiful heft. There are 6 now, squatting like wayward gifts. It takes something simple, unexpected, something that proves its place by arriving uninvited, by daring to be seen between the dogwood and coneflowers. I want to see a harvest rising from the rubbish. I want to hold it in my hands as proof there are small things that have no business growing, but they grow anyway. Thank you.
I love that poem. I'm so glad you read it.
Wonderful readings, both of you. Wonderful. Really lovely.
Just gorgeous. So much beauty.
I am full up with everything. Wow.
And
Yeah.
we've got more.
And there's more to come. But really, Sandy, I just want to say, I mean, you always say that about the darkness of your poems, but I don't feel that. I feel that they are, there's a richness of awareness of the natural world that for me places it all. So, human life is difficult, but that's the that's the source, and you're always noticing things. Your poems are full of all these things that you are seeing in the natural world, and to me that lifts it.
Mm, thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Should we go on? Are you all ready? Okay, well, each of us was gonna read some new poems too. So I'm gonna read some new poems. Some of these I think some of you have heard, but we'll see. So this first poem is actually dedicated to Frank X. Gaspar because it was stimulated originally by his wonderful poem Green. And he's a surfer as well. So this is Body Surfing with Dolphins. I used to lie out there on the surface, feeling the ocean gather, calm, gather, calm. My breathing just a slow canter. And then the build, the urgency, and I would turn and swim. And I would be taken. I would be lifted, riding or being ridden, arched like a dolphin, shouting. Then it would drop me hard on the hard pack, and I would turn, too tired to run, and crawl myself back into it, whispering, again, take me again, again. Once I swam out past the waves, not far, but far enough that the water lay almost flat under the hard sun, and dived below and turned to look up. Above me, the surface belled into the air, curved like a fisheye. Then I saw how worlds bell into one another, and how sometimes something leaps through the stretched surface from the abalone light below. The way dolphins leap from a risen wave or curvet inside it, going north, nose to tail to nose to tail, giving you that little Mona Lisa as they pass. One day soon now, I will feel it gather again and rise beneath me. And I will wait this time and turn back into it, maybe curveting a little as I turn, and swim alongside them, going north. Next poem I wanted to read is Briar Rose, which is about a real rose, an unnamed rose, and also the Sleeping Beauty, Briar Rose, and I've got a little Molly Bloom thrown in there just for fun. A found rose, they call her, some backyard musk gone feral, found in a burned out churchyard after the last Sonoma fire. Well, you know how that story goes. They sent throughout the world to discover who she was, but no one knew. She had changed so while everyone was asleep. Whatever lineage she rose from in those dead years behind that wall of thorns, she became another thing. Oh, tell me, storyteller, how does it happen, such transmutation? Thorn by thorn, can one be so changed by darkness, dead earth, stone, that even the burden of heritage is erased? For now she can survive anything, hurried into hard ground while it could still be dug, a frail stem rising from withered threads of root, too late in the season, and heading into a bad winter. But yes, she said, yes, I will, yes. And now all the east side of the house is white with clouds of tiny candelabra, and the whole summer smells like attar of honey. So the next poem is called Blocking the Chute. And I want to give my thanks to Ellen Bass for the idea of having a poem in the chute, which became this poem about writer's block and poetry rodeos. Down in the chute, it's waiting to spit itself out, about to kick the gate from under where you're sitting. Still, you can't seem to start. Something about its darkness, how hard it looks to get a grip on, how badly you could get hurt. But all your pretty little cattle are waiting for their turn and blocking the chute, this vast black muscle of a bad thing. Already someone is screaming, and maybe it's you. So you take a little detour instead to think about the Minotaur. Why was he stuck down there in the underground? Well, you know the answer to that one, because he was half bull, half human, all lust for the gorgeous burden of animal. And that's just what they didn't want to see roaming around in the sunlight. But now you're right back to wondering, what is it you don't want to see? It's a big, dirty, unlit 5-cent Nickelodeon of stuff. And you know you've got to ride it out of there or hide your face forever. So you climb down onto it and wrap your hand in the pathetic, half-assed bull rope of what little you know about how to write a poem. And then slam, everything goes to noise and shards of light, and you get about 30 seconds of maybe seeing something. And that's it. That's all you get, buckaroo. You're down, you're dust, you're done. The next one I want to read is called The Ferris Wheel. When I was a girl, I used to stand at the edge of the Pacific as the sun went down. I think I believed that all my dreams would come flying in white as gulls. When I grew up, I moved to LA, and something I had forgotten about rose up and cut off my hands. It took a long time to know what had gone missing. Sometimes in those years, I would go to the edge of the Pacific sunset. On the Santa Monica Pier was a Ferris wheel. I would walk away from it in the wet shingle until darkness fell, and then turn and walk back. The tide would ankle me and go out. The sand would pull from under my arches. Then the tide would pour back in, thick with foam and broken arms of kelp. After a while, there would be movement on the pier and the tinny sound of the carousel starting up, and the Ferris wheel would kindle and begin to circle in its cradle. Then I would walk back to my car, into the life I had brought myself to, while fairy lanterns wheeled in the darkness like a constellation in flames. The last poem I'd like to read is Crowfeather Story. Fairy tales will do what fairy tales do, whether or not you believe. Whether or not you believe, the crow is always cocking an amused eye upon your desperate longing, and leaving you one perfect feather, which is just as black as you think it is, until suddenly, when the light is right, it flashes, blinding, its secret ultramarine. And there's a kind of tipping, and just for a moment, you see him, radiant, Empyrean. And whether or not you believe his voice is beautiful, you know why he sings.
I love your new poems, Ruth.
Thank you.
Oh. So I have some new poems to share too. The first one, I started thinking about what if you could just, if you're having like agitation in a relationship or some going through some hard times, what if you just burn all the words, burn the stress between you and just, burn it clean. And then start over fresh. So this poem is called The Burning. Brush piled high by the side of the drive. Summer of wild green, now winter brown. A word gone up in smoke. Smoke like white fog between hills. Fire blown out by the slightest breeze. Fire kindled by the slightest breath. Burning leaves upon the white gap of our hurt. We hurt. The burn, orange on the quick blue sky. The burn, orange like sunrise through clouds. Feeding the fire is like worshiping heat, a paprika, turmeric flame. Smoke in my hair, my shirt, the burn in the fabric's teeth. We have too much of ourselves. What is burned is reduced. What is burned is unbound, forgiven. We have done too much to forgive. To forgive this pile of broken words, we burn the distance between us. Every limb, every vine, flower heads burst a fragrance of pain. Leaves untwist like string, the ash soft, what's left after rain. What is burned cannot be unburned. Burn until every word is complete. We have the whole day to burn this pile. It will take the whole day to burn this pile. And then I wrote a selection of what I'm calling breakup poems, and I wanted to share one of those. This is called Twin Stars. It would be easy to think of us as twin stars in the universe of breakups. The bond and friction, attraction, repulsion, and which of us is which. We've tried to explain it with letters and poems and settled on nothing except the ridiculous nature of emotions. I suspect we speak the same language of fear. I say the unsayable and then unsay it. I love you. I don't love you. I never loved you. I loved the person I thought you were, but you were someone else. And see how it gets tricky? Contradictions, doubt, never wanting to be seen as weak, always feeling weak. Like when we met for a hike, pretending it was the hike we were there for, and in the space of 2 minutes, fit into the shape of the absence we felt in our bodies. Hands, mouths, open, filled. We wonder why, and read books on why no contact is the better way to close the book. I trail my fingers over the contours of your jawline and tell myself to remember your voice speaking pain. I hear it and don't hear it. I find it and lose it and find it again. Twin stars are gravitationally bound. Created with the same dust, they hold each other in the universe. They orbit together. Sometimes they flare, burning until they burn each other out. This poem is called Blackberries. I walk the fence line to judge the ripening of the blackberries. The sun distilled sweet and sour, the promise of cobbler and jam. This was after you left, and the funeral eulogies had been set loose into the summer air. I watched turkey vultures spiral along thermals, seeking every small death. I need a ceiling, a shelter, some sort of handhold to settle the wide openness of grief. I lie on the grass and will the earth to let me in. She refuses. The blackberries, all sticker and thorn, toothed and compound, wait for me. Fence row shrubs snag, pull at my shirt, my hair, hold me to the thick band of life in the hot meadow. The plump, glossy globes fall into my hand, a blackberry prayer of resilience and faith. The berries taste warm, bright with tanginess, an undertone of earth. You would like them. A rabbit listens in the shade. Bumblebees dance on the white flowers. A crow calls from the distant pines. There are all sorts of questions, but never enough answers. Sometimes you have to stop asking. I fill a basket with berries, my hands purple, my tongue too. A memory lifts with a breeze, a tangle in the dense undergrowth, first tart, then sweet. I release it into the stunning azure sky. So my son and daughter-in-law had a baby using in vitro fertilization, which is a miracle, you know. That child is 1 year old now, but they have 4 frozen embryos in the clinic, and they're not going to have 4 more children. So I started wondering what happens to these frozen embryos, the potential of all of that, you know, the possible human being. So I wrote this poem about that. Song for the frozen embryo that will never be my granddaughter. In the vault of cells behind clinic walls, I sing you. Still life. Fruit and flower, turquoise ocean, speck of dust. I sing your cellular coupling suspended in a universe of glass. Your lullaby. Sweetness of crescent moon, meteor flashing, falling, a fusion of science and nature. I sing the instinct that speaks your cry, your kick and suck, your chromosomes claiming the color of your eyes, the shape of your ears, the length of your toes, whether you can curl your tongue. Seedling, stardust, you've sprouted and been refused. And still, I sing the chorus of what you could be, unearthed, bundled, swaddled in the dark museum of space. Tiny word unspoken, soft cloud rooting, orbit of impossible star. And then this is the last poem. Prayer still praying itself into being. I park by the side of the road to watch the sunrise spread pink and orange across a blue-gray sky. It lasts only a moment. The sun peels layers of night from the grass and trees, fence line and cows, a translucence shifting to solid. I hold moments of knowing and not knowing, seeing and not seeing, the potential and hope of the morning awakened. Is this prayer? The kind that repeats itself until it gets it right? The words at first clumsy and inept, stumbling across the dark field of loneliness. I don't know if the emptiness inside me is the shape of God or a bowl of grief, hollowed out with suffering. I watch the newborn day break into the clang of the world, clutching air, the arrival wet and cold. Sun floods the sky, the pink haze reflects in the puddles on the street, and the hour is alive with a willingness to belong to something larger than itself. Perhaps this is prayer then. The certainty that every day is uncertain, even as morning overcomes darkness, and with night again is itself overcome. Perhaps prayer has no words, but waits with me, rising toward the unfailing, unflinching light. Thank you.
It's beautiful, Sandy.
You.
Sandy and I had thought that we would each choose a poem that we particularly liked of the other person and read it. But I mean, we are getting late. Is this, do you all have time for another few minutes? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Sandy, I will go ahead. I'm going to read a poem that I really like from this book. It's called Instinct, and I'm going to read it first and then tell you why I like it. Rescued, I take the feral cat to the work shed. I'm supposed to contain him for 2 weeks, feed him, talk to him, convince him he's safe. He's calm. He eats, lets me scratch his bony shoulders. My child is the farthest away from me she's ever been. She says the days in Anchorage are short, the air so cold, her lungs rattle with frost. She works 12-hour shifts. Between the bay and the glaciers, she's healing. Gone is muggy Tennessee with its slow, heavy days, its shallow creeks meandering like an old woman perusing the sales rack. My child laughs when we talk on the phone, but I can't tell if she means it without seeing her eyes. The cat's eyes are honey and citrus. He curls around my legs, purring, until I open the shed door and he tastes the bright promise of a different kind of safety. He lopes along the fence line, across the unmowed field. The lady at the shelter sent instructions what to do if your feral cat escapes, almost as if she knew he would. A bitter water distills in me. I pick dandelions, the flowers gone to seed. I watch the cat leap tall weeds, his sleek back smooth in the pale sun. I leave food, prop the door open, call a name he never wore as his own. I want to believe he knows where home is, but I don't think he's ever coming back. I love this poem. I think, well, first of all, I really love how poignantly you give us the mother's love and longing and that difficult time of the child leaving without talking about it directly, without saying, this is how I felt. But we know, and that's beautiful, the way you did that. And I love how deftly you have caught the cat. But also I have a personal reason for loving this poem because this is a poem about Oliver, and Oliver didn't run away. He came back. And when I was at Rockville, Oliver was illegally my companion in my room. So I company that whole time. And so I love the fact that this poem is about Oliver and he didn't stay away.
Yes, he came back. It took 3 days, but he came back. So I have read Ruth's book, Journey Bread, twice. Once when she was reading at Black Dog Poetry Open Mic, the open mic series that I lead. And then once more before this reading. And we were gonna, like she said, we're gonna kind of surprise each other by picking a poem from our books and then reading it and saying why we liked it. So I was reading the second time, I was picking out the poems that I thought, really spoke to me. And I ended up with 7, Ruth, that I had to just like, oh my gosh, I like all of these. How am I going to pick between these 7? So I did. I picked one. And I'm going to read it, and then I'm just going to say really briefly why I liked this one. And the poem I want to read is Memorization. When my father explained his work to me, I already knew what fission was. My 3rd grade teacher fissioned us into teams, flashed cards, shouted, 5 seconds to answer, 7 times 8, Ruth, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wrong. My team always lost. A brain can be a cloud chamber full of random events, and shame is easy to memorize. Later, my mother drilled me with flashcards in a hotel room in Sweden in a rage because I still could not memorize the multiplication tables. Yet I remember clearly how it smelled there beside the vast gray lake, and how in the empty dining room light circled as though in clouds, and I remember the feel of my mother's anger and what she wanted from me. In college, I passed statistics only through the patient tutoring of the professor. A young man, worried and awkward and kind. Well, I was pretty, I do remember that. In the end, I worked out a way to cheat on the multiplication tables, and I have used it all my life. The numbers are shaped like the bones in my body, though I cannot tell you how. Perhaps I knew once, but memory slips away now like a fish you see moving underwater, sliding past the hook. Yet I believe what we know in the bones will stay with us. Like the face of a young man, kind and awkward in his stiff professor's suit, and not much older than I. And how I must have looked, sitting across from him in my new spring dress. Oh, pretty and quick and brief as a breath. I adore this poem. Poems that speak to me have vulnerability and honesty. And I think what I'm really drawn to in this poem, first of all, the first time I read it, what you can remember are the mother's anger and the very definite scenes. And you're remembering the vital things, the true things, the things in the bones, and not necessarily the things that were rewarded for remembering, the school tests, the multiplication tables, and all that kind of stuff. But remembering the vital things, the most important things, the deep heart level things that last. And this poem so clearly does that. I was at a poetry workshop just recently, and the instructor said, tell us first before you take away in your poem. And this poem does a beautiful job of telling and showing the scene of how the failure of memorizing, and how there was shame and a sense of not being good enough, but then showing how at the end the most beautiful things stay. And your poetry does that. I mean, not just this poem after poem after poem, the beautiful things stay.
Oh, thank you so much. That really is I really appreciate what you said. That's lovely.
Thank you all for coming. It was a joy to share.
Anybody have any questions for us, or I'm sorry, I'm sitting here with tears in my eyes because Sandy said something so nice. But are there any questions or anything you'd like to add or speak to?
I might say that with that question of lightness and darkness, the two of you together were
Oh, something happened.
so it was so easy to believe and know what you were saying. And though sometimes they were so different in tone, it's good to be remembered that more than one thing is true. You know, that the dark and the light are always there in everything.
Mm.
And I think oftentimes in the really dark stories, it's just, back to Keats. If
Mhm.
it's true, there will be light in it. And if there is light in it, then you can look at it. And if you can look at it, then you can survive it.
Yeah. I mean, and that isn't that what
Yeah.
poetry is
Yeah.
looking deeply at something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you, Diane.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you both for a beautiful reading.
Yeah, thank you so much.
It was
I'm really full up now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Me
I'm so
too.
glad. Thank you all for coming, and yeah, and there will be another reading in a month.